Big D Entertainment, in association with Dipsy Doodle Productions, presents The Dave Holly Hour, brought to you by Trio Jazz Club, Sioux Falls' premier jazz club. Enter as friends, leave as family. Serendipity Studio Gallery and Gifts, Chasers Food and Spirits, Excel Chiropractic, Quality Nails, and the Sioux Falls Arts Council. The Dave Holly Hour features Sioux Empire Arts and Entertainment Conversations. A true lover of arts, entertainment, good food, and fun times, including an occasional Jack Daniels. Okay, so a few Jack Daniels. Here he is, Dave Holly.
Thank you, Zach Thresh. Looking forward to seeing you and the rest of Improv Falls tomorrow night. Welcome, everyone. Great to have you on board for today's A&E Conversations. Lary Etten came to Sioux Falls from Chicago with the thought of being here a couple of years. That's back in the late 70s. We talk about his time and his career in theater. Comic Skyler Bolks will be touring eastern South Dakota during the month of June. His mode of transportation? His bicycle. Those conversations coming up. But first, let's pop the cork on this bubbly little show.
Time to grab your favorite beverage, lift it high, and toast it to being Thursday, a.k.a. Weekend Eve.
Hey, the weekend isn't around the corner, it's here!
So long, hump day and your frumpy way. We say hello to Thursdays with opening nights. The weekend is near and we can see the bright lights. Yes, Thursday, you're so hearty, we can't wait for Friday, so a day early, we start the party.
Doesn't matter what you toast with, as we all have different tastes, and listening at different times can make a big difference on what you might be choosing and what you might be choosing to drink out of. I am having, of course, my usual Jasper Newton, a Jack Daniels Diet Coke. You might be drinking water, milk, coffee, tea, beer, wine, or champagne. Whatever your beverage of choice is, lift it high and toast to vacation. My love and I had a wonderful time in Chicago last week. Caught a couple of Cubs games, one win, one loss. Had Chicago deep dish pizza, and took an architectural tour by boat on the Chicago River. Also toured Wrigley Field. I've been there a dozen times or so, but the first time I toured it, both the architectural tour and the tour of Wrigley Field, well worth money spent. Highly recommend those. Great history to be learned. And when I said money well spent, not that expensive. So cheers to vacation. The Weekend Toast is brought to you by Chasers, West 12th and Ellis Road. Stop in for great food, great beverages, and fun times. Join us Monday nights at 7 for Dave Holly Hour Trivia. This Monday, May 19th, theme will be all about May. Events, traditions, celebrity birthdays. It should be amazing. Honorable mention. So what made Dave laugh, chuckle, chortle, downright slap my knee silly, or even shed happy tears of joy recently? Well, Saturday night was a very joyous night. The Spark of Creation Cabaret put on by the Premier Playhouse. Incredible Broadway music performed by an amazing collection of TPP singers. It was also great. It started at 5 and finished just before 7. Which was great timing for us because we needed to get over to Monstrous Little Theater and Good Night Theater Collective collaboration of In the Next Room or The Vibrator Play. Oh, great night. So to use a baseball metaphor, it was an amazing double play with those two events. Later in the show, comic Skyler Bolks gives us the details about his upcoming bicycle comedy tour. In just a few minutes, local theater legend Lary Etten. Coming up on the Dave Holly Hour. Endless Imagination is the rotational gallery art exhibit this month at Serendipity Studio Gallery and Gifts. This exhibit benefits the local nonprofit Sioux Creative. Additionally, you'll find various vendors every Saturday from 10 until 4 at the Atrium Makers Market. Find it all in the historic Shriver Square building. Serendipity Studio Gallery and Gifts, downtown Sioux Falls. Trio Jazz Club is an intimate music venue in the heart of Sioux Falls. It's family-owned and family-run. Ricardo and Mary Beth and the entire staff provide the art of hospitality, while the best local and regional musicians provide the smooth sounds. It's a great vibe with live music Tuesday through Saturday nights. The chefs and mixologists offer an amazing menu and beer and wine lists. Cocktails as smooth as the jazz. Join the club, Trio Jazz Club, across from the Washington Pavilion. Enter as friends, leave as family.
The Dave Holly Hour, like eavesdropping on a great conversation between two very interesting people.
Welcome back, everyone. Oh, yes, you know I start off the conversation with it's always a pleasure to talk Sioux Empire arts and entertainment. This is really a pleasure because here we are 276 episodes in, and I finally got back in touch with Lary Etten, and it's great to have you here for your first time on the show, Lary.
Well, it's wonderful to be here. I'm excited I finally get to do this with you.
Yes, and you know what's been interesting? I thought back to this. I think you were one of my first interviews when I worked at KLOAM.
That could very well be.
20 plus years ago.
Wow, that does go back a long ways, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like, okay, man, I just got to get this guy on at some point. But, you know, you go to things and you find new people and you keep adding to the list. I will never run out of interviews. It's always going to be somebody that I need to talk to. And I've been needing to talk to you for a long time. First of all, get reacquainted. But secondly, do you have the mark for being the longest in terms of tenure between Playhouse, Sect, and TPP?
Absolutely. I wear it as a badge of honor, actually. Yeah. On the other hand, you could say I'm old as dust, which sort of gets me through most of those decades, you know. But I did move here from Chicago in 1977. I was a child at the time, not really, to take over the old community playhouse. And that was in part because I was directing in Chicago, and they through various networks discovered me and asked me to fly in to think about taking over the playhouse. They were going to go through at that point what was then a massive, like $2.5 million renovation. Mm-hmm. Now you've worked at the playhouse before, at the Orpheum down there. When I came to visit that summer, there was no scene shop and dressing rooms down below. That hallway off stage left that's now bricked, that was outdoors. So part of the gig for me was to come in and oversee that whole revamping of it. Wow. And I know when they first called me in Chicago and asked me to come, I said, well, where is this? And they said, in Sioux Falls. So I said, where is that? And they said, well, that's in South Dakota. And I said, and where is that? Which was, I think, almost tongue-in-cheek. But they flew me in and showed me the place, and I thought my career was going well in Chicago. But I rarely got to be in a place like the Orpheum, one of the old-fashioned tour circuit homes. And then the enticement, because I was in my literally middle 20s at that point. I thought, when will I get another opportunity? So, but I thought about it and I said, no, thank you. I really can't. I'm doing well where I'm at. I just got a write-up for a show in the Chicago Sun-Times, and I was like, I'm making it. Right. You know? And the Tribune as well. And so I think that may have been what latched them onto me. But in either case, a couple of weeks later, they called me back and tried to sweeten the offer and asked me please to fly in once again. So I did. And the people were so nice and so friendly. And I thought, well, a couple of years, you know, and I can put it through this. It'll be good on my resume. And here I am all these years later, still here.
Yeah, no need to hold out and pass out the resume at this point, huh?
Well, not at that point, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a while because I even asked Bob Nelson.
Oh.
Because Bob is I think he's got the largest extended theater family.
He's amazing in terms of the depth of how many people he knows and what he remembers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. First of all, you bring up any song, and he's got the lyrics all the way through. He doesn't miss any. In fact, I think it was Bloody Mary he started singing the other night.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And so it was a lot of fun. He's always a great time. But, I remember one time, and I want to bring this up because of it being produced recently. And that was when you directed Sound of Music.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Austin Vandersea was the
absolutely,
the lead.
yes.
Yeah, and I remember that. And I was trying to think, who was the female lead? Do you remember her name?
I know, and I can see her face.
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank right off the top. She was also the lead in Chicago when I did that musical.
Okay.
And she was also the lead when we did The Last 5 Years.
All right. Yeah.
Beale.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Oh, if you're listening, I'm so sorry. I'm spacing on your first name.
Yeah, not to worry. Yeah. I space lots. But anyway, so when we just recently saw it, and it ended up being, like 3 hours. And then I remember the speech you gave as you came out, and you told everybody right off the bat, it's a 3-hour show. And I thought, okay, I love the honesty that you're going to come out and tell us what to expect. And
because it's one of the big old-fashioned musicals. I mean, It's the granddaddy of musicals in many respects. It is substantially different in some areas of the show from the movie, which more people know the movie than they know the stage show. And the movie telescopes some of the action that takes place in the stage show. So I figured, well, if people need to use the restroom, they should know in advance, And I'd rather have them know than halfway through a long second act go, when is this thing ever going to be over?
Right. Because then it starts to bring a bad mood to them as well.
Right.
Yeah, you didn't want that. What do you think of what theater is now in terms of our community and just overall? Is it headed in the right direction? Is there anything missing?
Interesting you ask, because I've been talking about this with my wife Sue and with Rod and Mary Pierce, who are good friends of ours. Rod and I we started the Sioux Emperor Community Theater, and now the Premier Playhouse with a name change 23 years ago. And we did that then because the Playhouse, the Sioux Falls Community Playhouse that had preceded us, and that's the organization that brought me to Sioux Falls, had closed up shop overnight. I had just directed Streetcar Named Desire for them. Oh. And I'd gone back periodically after I left as the managing director. Yes, very good. And so I was totally unaware that they were on the brink of bankruptcy. And they started one show that followed my show, and they were like within 2 weeks of opening, and suddenly I opened the newspaper and it says, we've closed. Whew. And they took everything down with them. They had just raised a lot of money for their next season. And so a lot of businesses were left having just written a check, and now they find out it's gone. And so the theater, the actual theater itself laid vacant for about a year and a half. And Rod and I were talking about it, and I just got this thinking, man, if those of us who have been around and involved in the years past don't do something, we might not have community theater of any kind here. And I had a lot of people calling me saying, why didn't you do something? I said, well, I didn't know. I would have helped to try and help it survive if I could have. And that's what sort of that was the progenesis of starting the new theater, if you will. And we tried to set it up so that it would avoid the mistakes of the past by saying, okay, well, this we're not doing. Well, this we are doing differently, and that sort of thing. And the reason I bring this up in answer to your question is that we looked around and there was no other community theater or theater in general. The Pavilion series of Broadway shows were in the offing, but that had not happened yet. They were going to be coming, we thought. But we thought, well, if we don't do it, it won't happen. And so we started that. And I kind of like to think that our success, at least in the first 10 years or so, gave a lot of other indigenous groups the impetus to say, well, if they can do it, we can do it too. And so the arts have flourished in general, whether it's performing arts or whether it's any kind of the arts right now. And of course, everything's under threat right now, but that's another whole story.
Right.
But in terms of performing arts, I think we're in a much more wide-ranging group. You mentioned
Good Night Theater.
Good Night Theater with their show and their series of shows. And that's a different group, a different kind of theater group where it's really membership of their group. And they open it to more, as they did for Sound of Music, of course. But we're still, I think, the sort of the big guy on the block, if you will, because we offer not only young people's theater, we with the classes and the camps that we do, camps in the summer, classes throughout the year. We do that for everyone from young people to fairly mature people. And so we're doing a lot of educational stuff, and we're really trying to emphasize that. I mean, with our Penguin Project.
Oh, that's amazing.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
I mean, for people that fit with whatever their abilities are. And I know last summer, as a member of the board, we're asked to, maybe circulate in the lobby and say hello so we can greet and say hello so people feel welcome when they come, particularly those who have not been there before. So they say, hey, come on in. Hey, you're going to have a good time. But being in the lobby for a Penguin Project is a different animal altogether because you wind up hugging people a lot more than I had anticipated because there's tears in a lot of eyes from parents who say, I never knew my daughter or son could do that. And the sense of pride and accomplishment is above and beyond even what any other young person gets within a show. So I'm really, really glad we're doing those sorts of things because we have the breadth and the depth to be able to offer those kinds of things, plus the main stage shows that we do. Plus now we have what's going to be an underground series this year. So we're going to be moving out in the community, doing more things. So it's not an effort to displace a lot of the homegrown community groups that are around town. It's just simply what is not being done in the arts, and can we do it? Well, we're going to try.
All right. You're going to be doing it from a new facility soon.
Yes. Actually, we've already moved in, moved across the street. It's like we moved way, way, way across the street.
Yeah. But what a big jump, though. I mean, it's a great thing. And now, how is that being funded? Did you have enough, or is there going to be like a campaign to help things out?
Well, we were really, really fortunate in that the Sioux Empire Community Theater, the
TPP.
Yeah, well, no, the foundation,
okay,
Sioux Area Community Foundation, was you could say kind enough, or with enough foresight to really support what we're doing, and so they've underwritten approximately half of our costs for the first year, which is amazing. So we're still looking for another in a campaign to get up to, I think, $30,000, and we're trying to take some. And we also have another campaign going with First Premier Bank and Premier Bank Card. They've given us $25,000 a year for the next 3 years, in hopes that we can find matching funds for that. T. Denny Sanford has also given us a great support, particularly for the Penguin Project and the children's programs. So as we we continue to knock on doors and shake hands as much as we can. People make the mistake of thinking, and I'm sure you've run into this, that the ticket prices are so high, and that's why it covers everything. It's like it really, really does not. The cost of just renting the facility, renting the spaces, the costumes, the sets, the royalties on shows. I mean, for example, I'm thinking of like Sound of Music, and I don't know what they paid for royalties, but I know when we did that, which was over 10 years ago now, I think we paid almost $20,000 just for the rights to do the play, and then you have to rent the scores for it for each individual, and then you have to rent the scores for the orchestra to play, and then on top of that, you have all your sets and your costumes and everything. And so you could literally have $50, $60, $70, $80, $90,000 wrapped up in a production. And if audiences don't attend that at almost capacity levels, you're going to be on a fine line, even with all the support from the community. So it takes a whole world of opportunities financially to just put on a season of plays.
Yeah, Nancy Tapkin and I just produced Love Letters over the Valentine's Day weekend. And, small cast, just two of us, and we had Jesse Jensen as a director for it. But everything that went into that, people would be surprised at, and in terms of what it cost, because you had to have a script for each person that you had to pay for. You had to have one for the director as well, so no photocopying of anything. Right. The way that you have to learn how to read what's involved in that in a contract with a playwright and the publishing company and so forth. Just like the playwright's name has to be so big compared to other things, and, things along that line that you just don't think about. And, it first of all, it takes money, but also takes a lot of manpower.
Oh, absolutely. If you don't count the volunteer hours, our seasons are approaching $500,000 for the year to get done between the staff costs, the show costs, the rental costs, and everything else. Of that, less than half, truly less than half, comes from ticket sales. So that puts a big money mark. Tammy, our board president, opens each board meeting with, "And how are we doing on looking for new funding?" We're tasked with going out to find any new business. So new businesses, if you've just opened your doors, maybe within the next month or so, expect someone to stop by and say, "Hello, we're for the Premier Playhouse." Exactly. And, can you help us exceed in the arts, this is sort of an offshoot too, but for me, I know with all that's going on in the world, some people question, are the arts worth our time, our effort, our money? And community theater to me, when I was working in Chicago, as I alluded to, I had the good fortune to work in both community theater and what was then called semi-professional, because you had, equity allowed some equity actors to be union actors to be involved with non-unions, and it was one pathway to get your union card, and it was great fun because you could mix the actors and stuff, but our whole approach to theater here has been as amateurs, so we can't afford to pay. But like I say, the dollar figures are rather enormous. And then on top of it, you have all the volunteers, whether they're working backstage, whether they're actors on stage. People also make the mistake of thinking that we pay the actors, which we do not. Right. As you well know, because you've been on stage, and I can't really even put money in the meter for this. So we rely so much, not only, like I say, on the donors, but the donation of time and effort from just lay people that come in. And we're fortunate in a town, as Sioux Falls grows. That's the other thing, is we're a much bigger town than when I first moved here. Right. And the talent pool is just phenomenal. Insane. Well, you and I both were at the Spark creation show that we put on at Club David.
Club David, yeah.
On Saturday night. And did you not think it was astounding?
That was amazing.
Level?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I loved the whole format. There was like, hey, we have 2 acts. Each is less than an hour. We got a 10 to 15 minute break in between. And it was just boom and right into everything. There wasn't a whole lot of extra. We got to have, huge production value into it and so forth. It was straight to the music. And the other thing my love and I were talking about was the fact that it wasn't a combination of all of the great musicals of all time or things you've done over the past couple of years. There was so much music in there for everybody to enjoy and get revved up again for what's to come.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I was amazed about, I was amazed about a lot, but first the talent just bowled me over. I mean, the voices were so good. We've got 9 performers, and everyone was a gem, and some of the songs, and then one of the things I loved about it too is you can tell that these are all true performers. My wife Sue and I were talking about it afterwards too. And how do you tell that? Well, they are actors singing with great voices, but they act through the song.
Yes.
So it isn't just hitting notes. The empathy that their character that they're singing with is what connects you to them. And then the pathos of some of the songs, at least, just knock your socks off because they rent you emotionally. And these were all performers who can do that. And having 9 of them in a row just there on stage, not only was fantastic, but it really bodes well for the shows that we're going to be doing over the next season, in hopes that many of them will come back and be participants in those shows.
Yeah.
So I was very, very happy with it.
Yeah, that's the thing that I talk about so often here is the talent pool that we have, and I often go back to Sarah Crosby. When Sarah moved to town, she started then DAPA, Dakota Academy of Performing Arts. Now it's the Spotlight Theater Company, and the first time I met her, I was interviewing her on the air, and she said, the kids here are just as talented as kids in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. They just haven't had the opportunity. And it's been so great to see how everything has flourished for us as we've gotten larger. But also just, besides the talent pool, the fact that there is so much to choose from now. We got the sculpture walk. We've got, places like bars where people will go and put on a show, and coffee shops and book co-ops and everything along that line. And the number of people involved, and it just, like you said, first of all, actors that were singing is amazing. That's the one thing that I admire so much, is exactly as you were talking about, because they bring the songs to life. But, overall, the arts community has grown tremendously. People are more accepting to it. And the other thing I like, getting back to talking about Sarah with the opportunities, I think back to, 25 years ago, how many kids from USF or Augie graduated with a degree in theater, and we haven't seen them since. Now we see them all the time.
Yeah.
It's wonderful that they're involved, and there's more that have, full-time jobs thanks to the arts and theater and everything that's come along with it. So, I like the fact, I think we're going in the right direction, even more so than I've ever thought. I just love the fact that we've got so much to choose from, and there's so many great things happening, and I just admire it all. And where do you think it still needs to go?
Well, following up on what you just mentioned too, I was thinking when you were saying that about our staff at the Premier Playhouse. A number of members on our staff are great. Well, one
right.
was Alex, for example.
Amazing.
I mean, she could work in New York. I mean, she is that talented a performer, but she chooses to stay here.
Right.
We have other members of our staff that could work in the professional world, I mean, at the drop of a dime, if they chose to, but they're choosing to stay here. And that's one thing is changing around here. A number of people that are involved in Goodnight, for example, I'm convinced could work in the professional theater, again, if they chose to. But they're choosing to use their talents at will when they want to, but they still have a career, they've got a family, they enjoy living here. I know for myself, like I say, I fully intend to stay for 2 or 3 years maybe and go. And I fell in love with Sioux Falls.
Wow.
I met my future bride, and I've made a career here, and I'd like to think I could have worked anywhere because I was doing it.
Yes.
And I could have gone back to it, but there's something about this location and the people of it mainly, I think, that allows arts to thrive, and therefore it allows artists to thrive as well.
You know, it's been several years, but it was one of those news magazine shows, you know, not Dateline, but one of the others. And they did a comparison of Sioux Falls to San Francisco. Sioux Falls residents per capita donate more to the arts than San Francisco does.
Wow.
Yeah. And I've always kept that little nugget of information thinking, you know what, that's really important, you know, that we have such supportive people in this town. So, you know, when Larry and all the others from the board come around, knock on your door, help them out. We know you can do it. Yeah.
Please do. And I started to mention, too, one of the things about me in terms of community theater, compared to working in professional theater, and I love that, too, don't get me wrong, but there's an innate love of the craft in amateurs that's different. And I don't want to say that professional actors are jaded, but it is a career for them. It's a profession for them. But when I get to work with third graders and fifth graders and seventh graders and stuff, and they come into something, and you can tell that they've not done this before. They're shy. They don't know where they're going. They don't have a sense of being part of the community of the arts yet. And here you are 2 months later at the end of a show, and they're laughing and talking with, and it's so almost ecumenical, if you will, because they're sitting there talking with the guy who is you know, a 60-year-old dentist who's sitting and also talking with someone that works at the Gap, who's now working, you know, with a bank president or something, because it's all over the landscape. There's no judgmental quality about who you're playing with, who you're dealing with, and everyone respects everyone else. And that's something that you don't necessarily get in any other business, any other hobby, any other thing. Usually most hobbies are similar, people of similar likes, similar backgrounds, or similar positions in society. Community theater cuts through all of that. Yeah. And I mean, all of my best friends, and I think of our whole family as best friends, have come from, which show did you start with me on? You know?
How many shows have you directed?
I honestly don't know. I jokingly said, well, I quit counting when I passed 150, but it's somewhere north of that, I think.
Wow.
And now I'm kind of cheating in that way, because that includes when I was in college and
right.
and doing shows and directing one act
counts.
or something. But it counts. So it counts to me. So I like to think that I have a good solid basis for theater in general, which, and I know some directors particularly like, oh, I'm a musicals director, or I'm a straight play or a comedy director. I love doing it all. And when I'm doing a comedy, I'd like to, well, what's the next musical I'm going to do? If I'm doing that, well, what's the next drama I'm going to do? I'm very excited, by the way, because I think you know already that I've been pushing for some years to do Death of a Salesman.
Yes.
It's sort of like the granddaddy of American theater. And that's another thing that and I don't mean to be overly pushing the Premier Playhouse, but there's no really other theater group in town that are doing the plays from the pantheon of great American theater. And that's something that we have done since our very beginning. I mean, with shows like The Crucible or Streetcar or The Miracle Worker or a number of ones that we did. And that's something that we're trying to pursue and we're trying to bring back now. So we're going to be doing that over the next couple of years and at least doing 1 or 2 shows each year. Now, I don't know if you got to see Educating Rita, which we just did about a month ago. A phenomenal production, but we did that in a lecture hall on the campus of USF. And that's the other thing we're going to try and do. It is what we call the Underground Series, and we now have an official name for it, is reaching out and doing theater in areas that you would not expect. But it worked out really well, didn't you think?
It was phenomenal. Yeah, and that was a passion project.
Yes.
Of Mo Hurley.
Exactly.
Who is just one of the sweetest people
Isn't
in
she
the
wonderful?
world. She's
She is
incredible. Yeah. But she can also put on the fierce face and produce and direct, and she's an amazing young lady. But the idea of putting it there because, hey, it's a professor's office, basically, for the entire thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's like, this works so great. Yeah. And,
well, she designed the set for the to fit in that location, which I thought was remarkably good.
Yes.
And making it fit well for the audience. And so, yeah, it was a wonderful production. I love the movie originally, the Michael Caine film of that. So that was my entree into it. I knew there was a play, but I'd not actually seen it produced before. So I was really glad we got to do it.
Most memorable moment for you. What sticks out in your theater career?
Wow.
Because with over 150 shows directing, and then everything else, I'm sure that list could be narrowed down to like 100.
Of my favorites, 2 shows come to mind right off the bat. And so that it may not be valid, but it's the first 2 that came to mind. The production we did of Chicago, the musical, I really liked. We saw, we knew we were going to be doing it. And they brought a tour through because at the Pavilion for the Broadway tour. Yeah. And like the one that just came was like the 3rd time they brought Chicago. Well, this is like 2 back. And I remember we were out in the lobby after it, and a number of theater devotees, actors who had been in a number of shows for me, were actually kind of clumped together, and we're all talking about what we did. And everybody was saying, well, Larry, well, how the heck are we going to do that production, that show, that version of Chicago? And I said, I'm not going to do that production of Chicago. I'm going to do my own. Now, the show, as you know, it's a skill level of Broadway dancing that justifies description. Well, that production takes the dance company and makes them do all the different roles. And I thought, well, the original production of the show that Chicago was based on didn't have music, didn't have dance. And so I divided it into 2 companies. One was the dance company and one was the acting company. So we could have a smaller dance company of like 14 who are the best dancers in town and the best actors in town, and keep them separate to start with and then sort of meld them together as the show went on. And I think it worked really, really well. I've never seen that production done before. Like that. And so that was a thrill for me. And I think it turned out really well. We had some friends that came in. Well, they came in and brought some friends there who I'd never met before. And they said, well, we're going to come in they live in Des Moines, I think. And their daughter was working in New York at a theater that Chicago was playing at. And the parents had just gone in to see her and saw the show 2 weeks before. And these friends in Des Moines said, well, why don't you come? We're going to see Chicago. They're like, a community theater production? Okay. And they were rapturous about it. I mean, and so they were just, they had no connection to us other than like 2 parts away, if you will. And they really loved it. So that was one. The other show was Sweeney Todd. Now, Sweeney Todd may not be everyone's cup of tea, but Hal Prince, who was probably the most honored and decorated Broadway director, producer of all time, was a mentor of mine many, many years ago. And I got to work with him. And I've always been in awe of the man, his talent, and his success in his career and whatever. And so when we got to do Sweeney Todd, I decided my production was going to be as much a pan to that man. And so I went back and studied the original Broadway production and did my damnedest to duplicate it. When you see a show coming through as a tour show at the Pavilion, they are basically exact duplicates of the Broadway show. They sort of have to be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, community theater, you think, well, let me find my own path. Let me find my own way to it. Well, with this was, I thought, well, I don't think I could get possibly past what Hal Prince did originally when he did that. And we had just an absolutely phenomenal cast. And so that stands out as the other. But I would say those two are probably my favorites of the last 15, 20 years. Exactly.
Excellent. All right. Final question, which sometimes leads to a second.
Oh, okay.
Since you're a first-time guest, you get these. The first is when you are not part of the arts and entertainment scene, what do you like to be entertained by?
Film.
Ah.
I love film buff. I mean, if you next time you come over to my our family room and look at our 70-inch wide 4K theater with the surround sound and recliners everywhere you look, you'll know, and the popcorn over on the island maker. I've always loved film. In the early days, after I first left the community playhouse, there was a man in town named Jimmy Unsicker, and I don't know if you ever knew Jimmy Unsicker. For years, he had been the head photographer at Kello, and so way back in the dim history of the past, when the Rapid City floods and stuff, any of that footage you see, he shot.
Okay.
And he and his wife Ray were in a few plays for me, and he wound up actually becoming a stage director as well. But I got to work with him on stuff when I left, because I moved from directing on stage to directing film, directing video work, and moved into a career which was honestly a lot more remunerative in the corporate film world. And I did that with an entree because of Jimmy. And he was an amazing man, but he taught me how to actually shoot film, how to, when I say cut film, physically cut film.
Razor blade. And
the same principles of that transferred immediately into video production. And that's what I did for a career. I worked with the Good Samaritan Society in their TV studios for years and years doing stuff like that. And so it's sort of like when I was doing video production, I want to do a play. Yeah. I miss it. And when I'm doing a play, boy, if I was doing this on video, once we got it great, it would be done and we move on, So both sides of that particular sense of art, both sides of that art coin, if you will, are true loves of mine.
All right. And it does lead to the second question then. Any other hobbies?
I wouldn't call it a hobby necessarily, but from the time I was 9 until I was 21, I marched in drum and bugle corps around the country.
Yeah,
and some of my best friends to this day came out that were ones I marched with all those years ago. We went all over the country. Our best year, we took second in the nation. Inside the Astrodome.
Oh, wow.
So that was great fun. And so going to shows when possible around the country now, or watching the drum and bugle corps shows. It's that whole art form, another different art form, has evolved amazingly.
Very much so, yeah. The competitions for those.
But just so we, in fact, last summer we had a party at our place out on our deck, and we had a bunch of people that came in from all over the country that were part of that. So it was great fun. There was a lot of reminiscing and a lot of, well, I'll just say, can I say BSing?
Oh, yeah.
About that? So I think there was a lot of a much prettier picture taken of the past than maybe absolutely accurate, but thoroughly enjoyed that.
What did you play?
I played drums. I was in the drum line. I usually played the triple tenors, or we had a kettle drum, a marching kettle drum. It was brand new at that point. But the other guys, I mean, the drum line, well, to be fair, the drum line were the cool kids. So you want
exactly.
that. What can I tell you, But even preceding that has been theater. The first show I did, I wrote a one-act musical version of Peer Gynt in third grade, and I actually played the role of Peer Gynt, not because of excessive talent, but I was the only one that had lederhosen from my grandmother's trip to Germany. So I've kept the traditions from third grade on. So
all right, the legend Lary B. Etten. Thank you so much for taking some time to be on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. This has been great fun reminiscing and talking about it. Hopefully, if people are listening, they know that we're trying to advocate for the arts in Sioux Falls. And I don't think there's other things. There's a lot of things to advocate for in tight money times, but I don't want to see the arts go away for all those kids that may have a future life outside of the arts, but their life is affected because of their involvement in the arts. That's really a goal, I think.
All right. Great goal.
Ah.
All right. Thank you again, Larry. Appreciate it. And we'll be back with more of the Dave Holly Hour in just a moment.
Dr. Perry Langston and Dr. Corey Tooney know excellence is in you. That's why they provide you with excellent care at XO Chiropractic, improving your overall health in spirit, body, mind, and will. Get results the natural way. Arrange a consultation, 605-332-9235 or xochiros.com. Excellent care for excellent people. XO Chiropractic, located at 4309 South Racket Drive in Sioux Falls.
As the temps get warmer, the cool jazz gets hotter on the Trio Jazz Club stage. Tonight, Jazz with Bobby Grip plays 6:30. Now transport yourself with the unique sounds of Steel Groove tomorrow night. Two shows, 6:30 and 9. Then it's the Brazilian Jazz Project at 6:30 and 9 Saturday night. Getting into next week, then Tuesday, Michael Wetzel provides a lively performance on guitar and vocals for a 6:30 show. And Augustana's own Jacob Moeller will have his trio on the Trio stage the night. For showtimes and tickets, as well as more information about upcoming shows, go online at triojazzclub.com.
Time for more arts and entertainment talk on the Dave Holly Hour.
Welcome back, everybody. Yes, it is a pleasure to talk Sioux Empire arts and entertainment. And today we're going to talk about the art of comedy. But we're also going to be talking about the art of bicycling. Because Skyler Bolks, welcome back to the show. It's been a while.
It's great to be back.
Yes, and so what's this crazy-ass idea you've come up with for a comedy bicycle tour?
That's about the most appropriate way anyone's addressed it with me. I've got a lot of questions, but I think that's the most appropriate way anyone's ever addressed it. So I came up with this idea. I rode Ragbri last year for the first time. The big ride across to Iowa. It's pretty. It's well supported. It's pretty
right.
The bumpers are on. I thought it'd be cool to do some bike packing. You pack all your stuff on your bike, you go camping. And I wanted to work in riding my bike to shows because I've had the panic on the road a few times. My Prius has 408,000 miles on it. So there are times when I'm not 100% certain it'll make it.
Right.
And I start to wonder what I'm going to do. And I just flash straight to a Charlie Chaplin scene. The car gets blown up. He gets on a bicycle. The bicycle loses a wheel. He's riding a unicycle. So that's the trajectory of my life right now.
Great idea. So where all will this take you then?
So we're going to be Worthing, Valley Springs, Sioux Falls, Flandreau, Bruce, Corona, Aberdeen, Stratford, Huron, Mitchell, Webster, Watertown, and Brookings.
All right. So have you mapped it out? How many miles?
1,000 miles.
Whoa.
We're going to be doing 1,000 miles in the month of June.
In June alone?
Yep.
Wow.
And it's all...
You're going to be booking it then.
All eastern South Dakota.
Yeah.
I have it. Most of them are about 50 miles a day or less. Yeah. I do have a big stretch. I think it's between Stratford and Huron is about 76 miles.
Okay. How long does it take then for you at this point of bicycling to get 50 miles or 76 miles in.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on weather conditions and stuff like that. And being a big fella, the wind is in my face. I slow down pretty significantly. Yeah. But I mean, I can all day long, I can hold a 10 to 14 miles an hour, kind of give or take, depending on what I'm facing. So you stay moving. It'll take 4 or 5 hours to get a 50-mile ride in. But
do you have any really hilly country in this at all?
Well, it's eastern South Dakota.
Well, so it's only thing better, eastern North Dakota.
Right. I didn't go west for a reason. Next month, I'll be doing Illinois.
You going to ride in RAGBRAI again?
I don't believe so. I kind of really only have time for one big bicycle adventure, and this is going to be it. But this is work too, so I'm not actually taking any time off to do it. Right. So there may be time come July to ride RAGBRAI if I...
Okay, so you've got them spaced out so that it's like 50 to 76 miles basically between spots. But what about you staying in one place more than one night, or is it going to be day by day by day throughout this?
So I'm doing Thursday through Saturday most weekends. I'm getting a couple, like Friday the 13th, wasn't able to book a show. Don't know if that's a bad thing. I'll probably just sit still that day. Not even going to get on the bike. But there will be a couple of days off in between.
Okay.
I'll be up near Aberdeen for a couple of days camping out. So,
and will that time between include lots of Tylenol and Advil?
Food.
More so food for the energy. Okay.
Yeah, I cannot eat enough. When I rode RAGBRAI by day 4, I was like, I am just so sick of eating because every stop I couldn't help but do anything but just put as much food into me as I possibly could. And I get on the bike and my stomach just starts begging for more.
All right. So what have you, besides mapping it out, have you thought, okay, if I'm going to be in this town, I have to get this? Are there food choices along the way that you've already got predetermined?
There are some. And the Taco Vault that does amazing tacos, and they're actually our first stop.
That's right, down in Worthing, yeah.
And I think we got Backyard Barbecue is going to bring the truck out to the show in Valley Springs at a Homestead Brew. So those are two, like we're starting off. I'm going to be eating pretty big from them. I've got a couple of ideas along the way, but I am looking for suggestions. If anybody, in any of those towns or nearby on the way, anything in eastern South Dakota that I should really check out, I'll even make a little detour.
I'm guessing you're going to be posting things.
Oh, constantly.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so people will be able to keep track of this. How so?
Facebook and Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube is all at Skyler Bolks. It's all the exact same. Or you can go through my website to find the links as well as SkylerBolks.com.
Oh, man. I think this is going to be a hoot.
I mean, it's going to be a wild time.
Yeah, and is it going to be the same set every time?
So when I'm outside of town, I will be doing my normal show. The Taco Vault in Worthing is going to be a new stuff show. A Homestead Brew in Valley Springs, we're doing a show out by the fire pit. They've got a really nice stone stage that they've built by their fire pit. It's absolutely beautiful. And I'm going to be doing True Stories from the Road on that one. And then at the Rush will be my regular show. That way, if anybody wants to ride along from the Sioux Falls area, you won't get the same show every night. I've got different openers on every show, and I'll be doing a different set as well.
You're opening this up. You going to have any opening acts that also be riding?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how many of them will be riding with me. Some of them won't be able to because they'll have to bring the sound gear. Because I have a limited amount of weight I can and want to carry on the bike. So sometimes I'm going to be leaning on some other people that are going to be helping me out. Pretty much all your favorites from Sioux Falls, all the local comics will be. And surrounding area too. We got some people from out of town as well. You'll probably see them on the tour here because it's kind of also a celebration of South Dakota. We kept all the stops in South Dakota, bringing great comedy. That's kind of I want to show people that there's great comedy in South Dakota. You don't have to be from Chicago or Denver or whatever to be a solid comic. Like we've got good talent here.
That we do,
and it's just gonna be a fun celebration of everything South Dakota.
So what have you been working on other than a bike tour for your comedy, or has this taken up most of the time?
This has enveloped pretty much every facet of my life at this point, because there's a financial aspect to it. I have to be most of it is getting things sorted out ahead of time, making sure I have my merch and all my gear and stuff like that. Luckily, I have had some help from Spoken Sport and Common Sense Urban Legend really helped me out with getting some of that stuff together as well. But yeah, I don't have any other real plans right now. I'm starting with the seed of an idea, and that'll probably develop along the ride. Just like this one was kind of born on Ragbri. The next idea will probably be more fleshed out as I ride along and chat with some folks along the way.
How many years have you been riding bicycle? And in terms of this type of thing, that you can go more than just a mile downtown or something. And then how many years have you been doing comedy now?
Well, I've been in the comedy game for about 10 years now. Riding my bike like this has been kind of sporadic through my life. When I was in college, honestly, I found out you couldn't get a DUI on a bicycle anymore. They changed that law, and I was like, Yankton's not that big of a town. I can get a bike, never have to worry about a DUI. And then some of my friends told me that they didn't think I could ride my bike all the way to Gayville because it's 13 miles away. And so I just did it. And so I've done these things randomly here and there where I've done, a big 30-mile day or something like that. And now, though, that's become just kind of another training day. So is training for bicycle riding strictly just riding the bicycle? Just ride the bike. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. You're not in the gym one day working on legs and another.
Well, and I have been on a weight training program as well, because it definitely helps a lot, like significantly with your endurance and whatnot. But I've tapered off the gym now, and it's just getting as many miles in as I can till about a week before. Then I'll take it real easy on the bike to make sure I'm perfectly, fully recovered.
So what is the bicycle that you have for choice?
So it's a Soma Fabrications. It's a company out of Southern California. They're one of the few companies that makes just a good solid production bike that goes into what they call the supersize category. Because I'm 6'7", so I had to get a special bike. I had a special order in a frame that, they usually the bike shop carries up to XL. This would be a double XL. So
what's your shoe size?
15s.
Wow. So do you have extra large pedals or anything too?
I have the shoes that you clip into the pedals.
Okay.
It kind of close to a road bike, the classic Tour de France type of bike you see. But this is the gravel version of it. So it's made to be a little more rugged, but also a little more of a chill rider.
Yeah. What type of roads are you going to be on? Like county roads or highways?
I'll be all over. A lot of it I want to do on gravel, but it is harder to push on gravel than it is just on a nice paved road. So it'll be kind of dependent on how tired I am and how the weather is, because I don't want to be on a gravel road in the rain.
Oh, no doubt. In the meantime, then, what do you have to do to prepare the bike? What are you taking with you, first of all? Obviously, you got to remain kind of light, and other people are going to bring some other things along. But so what are you packing, and what do you need to get ready?
Basically, I have my bags. I have it all figured out. I've done an overnighter as well. But I will have everything that I need to survive will be on my bike. I'll carry all of that stuff, all my clothes and whatever else. And then the stuff for the shows, some sound gear and merch and whatnot, I'll be having some comics help me out carrying out. But I have my loadout is down to 30 pounds. That includes, a tent, sleeping bag, sleeping pad. I got a little inflatable pillow. Changes of clothes, and I have to have clothes for the show, so I actually have to have an extra set of something nice to wear, some rain gear, and then some of the tools for any roadside service that might need to happen, and lights, and food and water.
Do you have a pump for the tires that'll be along with you? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So what would it take? What would have to happen if you needed somebody else to come rescue you?
So most of the shows are fairly close to Sioux Falls. So I have a lot of bailout options there. And if something goes wrong where I might not make the show, I would have one of the comics pick me up and make sure I get to the show and fulfill my duties there. And then I would go back to my bike if I had to leave it behind, because if somebody's coming out in a Honda, they're not going to fit my supersized bike in the back. But there's also some, I know Spoken Sport does some roadside assistance for events. I don't know if they do it regularly, but there's also a mobile bike shop based out of Madison, and so I'll probably be setting something up with him. I like to work with the local bike shops and stuff like that on something like this to see if we can set up a little promo. Maybe he'll give me a little tune-up.
Is there a sag wagon?
There's no sag wagon. It's semi-supported in the fact that I have comics coming out, friends along the way, but otherwise it's just all me.
All right, so everybody on that route, if you've not seen Skyler before, where the hell did Tyler come from? If you've not seen Skyler before, it is worth the time, and support him because he's going to be out there literally making his legs work for this. He's going to be pedaling. And not just goods. He's going to be pedaling, get out there from town to town to make you laugh. And he does that quite well. How do you describe your comedy to people?
It's kind of a mix of, short jokes and true stories from my life. It's a lot of just kind of the things I've experienced growing up in the Midwest and going out and experiencing the world. Being on the road as a comic has introduced me to a lot of new different kinds of cultures in different places.
Right.
There's a lot of cities and towns and neighborhoods even that are wildly different than anything I had ever seen before. So,
especially small towns, while it's all eastern South Dakota and we kind of think of it in some general terms, I have the feeling you're still going to find interesting things in each community.
Yeah, absolutely. I've kind of made a name for myself on the road working a lot of these small town bars, and all over the Midwest, and they're all the same, but they're all completely different.
Yeah.
There's just a completely different cast of characters. There's a handful of different sets that the bars can take on, but you never experience the same thing twice. And it's always curious to meet people because we all have these preconceived notions of what someone's like from a podunk town, but I've ended up interacting with some pretty interesting people along the way.
How many of these places that you'll be playing have you played before?
Let's see. 2.
Oh, so new experience for you as well.
Yep, just 2 of them. Because even Corona, I've done their Shady Beach room, but we're trying to do an outdoor show at the Wharf. So it's owned by the same people. But,
right.
They're trying to do it out there, see if we can encourage some people to ride out from Millbank.
Uh-huh. Oh, what has been the reception when you tell people this as you're getting the bookings? Hey, here's what I'm doing. Do they go, seriously? Or what's been the reaction?
A lot of people just really thought it was cool. And a couple of people just have that comedy's not going to happen at my place. It didn't matter what the hook was.
Right.
Some of them because they've had a show before and it was somebody that thought they knew what they were doing and realized they had no idea. And then the bar has a bad experience because they have a bad show. But yeah, a lot of people just really thought it was pretty cool and they were willing to kind of take a shot on it and jump in. And it helped after, I got enough people that thought it was cool to get on board. After I announced that I was doing it, I had a couple of places that I had left messages with and tried to get in contact with all of a sudden came and reached out to me. Hey, we need to be a part of this. This sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So once they saw it fully fleshed out, then they realized like, oh, this actually could be a pretty fun idea.
Well, you approached me about it and we were communicating back and forth and I didn't want to ask questions. I just said, okay, sounds fun. Because I wanted this to be that way then of like, what's going on? How are you going to accomplish this and what all does it take? So I'm glad that it wasn't me going, okay, Skyler hasn't been on for a while. But I was mentioning this to, on Monday night, I was hosting trivia out at the Sky Lounge, and I was telling him what was coming up on this next episode. And I said to them, Skyler Bolks, a comic who's going to be on the road on a bicycle. And a lot of people were like, huh? And it's like, well, just going to have to listen now, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, it is something that kind of makes people's ears perk up. They're like, how far are you going and why? Why is the biggest question. I love to ride my bike. I love to tell jokes. I might as well do them both.
There you go. Now, dependent upon the success of this, will there be another tour, and will the tour expand?
So, you know how earlier I was telling you I have seeds of ideas,
yes,
that may be fleshed out along the way. We'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah.
There may be another one. If the problem with things like this is sometimes you think it's going to be a great idea and you go out and do it and you endure all the way through and you get home and you sit down and you think, I'm never going to do that again. That was awful, actually. I'm glad I did it, but I'm done doing it.
Yeah.
But I was afraid that might happen coming home from Ragbri last year because I was tired for a good week and a half afterwards. I was pretty run down after that. And I hadn't trained quite as much as I needed to. I didn't realize that, but I was a little worried I would come home with that attitude of that was fun, but I'm not doing it anymore. Yeah. But I came home exactly the opposite. By the time I had recovered about a week and a half later, I figured out a way to strap a tent to my bike and put a backpack on my back and rode out to Laverne, Minnesota to do a camping trip overnight. So
yeah. And Blue Mountain then?
Yep.
Oh, so not just Laverne, but up and
it was a
area.
It was 110 miles over, like 36 hours.
Yeah. Oof.
Ride out,
you, man.
Drink a couple beers, camp out.
Okay, so how is that going to happen? Because, one of the things that you realized about biking was you can't get a DUI. So do you have someone separate bringing that along? Or you're going to have some of your comic friends along the way that will...
I can always throw a flask. I got enough extra room in my weight on the bike for a flask. But I did find out, although you can't get a DUI on a bike, you can get a broken wrist if you're drinking and biking. So that is one of the things that could happen.
That's history.
So yeah, that is
okay.
5th of July. 3 in the morning, give or take. Yep.
Okay. Last year on the 4th of July, I almost broke my arm.
Yeah.
Falling. We'll leave it at that.
That's the way she happens. Yeah, so we take it easy, but a little bit of bourbon at the campsite next to the fire is a nice way to end the night.
So, as you're going, making your way and so forth, are you sitting there hoping that this is going to lead to a boatload of new material?
Yeah, that's always the idea. And I was talking to somebody last night actually, and he was asking, so are you like dedicating time like in your show to the ride for the day? I was like, I'm not, but it'll just happen.
Right.
I know it'll happen if something interesting happens on the road. And when you travel like this, something interesting will happen. That's I've always had this talk with other comic friends in the car when we're on the road and we have this wild experience. We see something crazy go down and then we look at each other, and I always ask, do you think these crazy things happen to us when we're on the road because we're just out there and exposed to more things? Or is it because we're comics and because we're a little messed up anyway? And so we stick around, we look for the weird, we're attracted to the weird, or the weird's attracted to us.
The comic gods are shining.
Mm-hmm. And most of the time it doesn't even end up on stage because how can you explain what went down? But
very true. Yeah, because I don't think anybody does the old standard that they used to have. You had to be there.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm so looking forward to following you on this. Are you worried about the heat?
Yeah. Oh, I'm worried about all the weather. I'm kind of intentionally underprepared for the rain, but your legs are going to end up wet one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just try to dodge it by either riding through the night or, whatever I've got to do. But, at a certain point, you just kind of got to deal with the suck. You just got to embrace, like, it's going to keep happening. I don't want to say embrace it. You just got to accept it and just kind of deal with it. I've always been kind of good at that. And that's just kind of a mantra of being an endurance athlete. Sometimes you just got to lean in. When I did the 100-mile day on Ragbri, I was talking to a guy from the Air Force. They had the Air Force out as like support on the ride. And I was like, yeah, it's a nice day for it, but I could do without the wind. We had a 20-mile-an-hour headwind.
Oh.
And yeah, I'm a big fella. I pick up a lot of that wind. And he just looked at me and said, it's one more thing to endure. And I was like, hey, you know what? That's an attitude I don't really have, but I can respect it.
Gotta be military there. Huh?
I'm going to still do it, but I want to complain about it a little bit along the way.
Well, I think that's going to be a new T-shirt for you. Accept the suck.
Accept the suck. Yeah, that's... I'll probably sell 1 million of those.
I have the feeling that one would be a big hit. Is there insurance on the bike?
Insurance. I mean, it's a steel bike. Not much is going to happen to it.
I was thinking more along the lines of, hey, don't have any cops in this town, and this is a cool looking bike.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I keep it locked up. I try to stick around. And most of the places are those small towns in South Dakota where they don't even lock their car doors. They leave the keys on the dash where you could see them. So you could just walk out and have yourself a new Buick Regal if you wanted.
Instead of a bike.
Right.
So are these, because you said this is the gravel edition. So are we talking, the fat tires and the knobs and so forth?
Not quite the huge tire. It'll be a smaller tire than a mountain bike, but bigger than a road bike. They're kind of a little more set up like a road bike, but it's got just like a little more, think of an SUV. It's like a little more aggressive to go off road, but you're not really roughing it.
Okay. All right. So looking forward to this, but let's go back to, what got you into comedy to begin with?
Well, this is a controversial one, but growing up, my dad had Bill Cosby tapes.
Yeah.
And we always loved watching those. I didn't realize, we just thought, oh, this guy's a good storyteller. Right. This is a funny guy that just like sits down and talks, and we enjoyed watching him. He'd seen some other, we listened to Prairie Home Companion, so we'd heard Garrison Keillor, so we knew what good storytelling sounded like and what bad storytelling sounded like. And it wasn't until we actually got Comedy Central got added to our basic cable package here in South Dakota, and we found that out one night by watching the late night commercials with little censorship stars on them, and we left it on that channel. And then the next day we turned on the TV and it was Friday Night Stand Up, and couldn't believe people were doing this thing we just thought was this one guy just thought he was the guy that did that. We didn't even know it was a whole art form. And they became just a ritual at our house. Friday Night Stand Up. We would sit down at the TV and watch, through the Premium Blend and the Presents specials. And then, they'd have another mix up show after. So it just became something I always wanted to do. We'd tell each other, or we'd tell jokes from comics. We'd do a Lewis Black bit or a Mitch Hedberg bit around the campfire as kids while we were out camping with the family. And it's been something that I've basically wanted to do ever since then. So since I was 7 or 8.
All right. So before we wrap things up, when does this start and when does it end?
So our first show is June 5th.
All right.
And then the last show, June 5th, that's at the Taco Vault in Worthing. The last show will be at the Lanes in Brookings on June 28th.
Wow. So a month worth of traveling on 2 wheels. All right. I wish you the best, my friend, because first of all, I think it's a great idea. And I hope that you get tons of press from it. That's what we're all looking for when we're entertainers.
Yeah,
we want to get things so we can hold on to. Now, since you have been a previous guest, that means you've gone through the questions of when you're not in entertainment, what do you like to be entertained by, all those. So now let's go with your mantra? Do you have a word or a phrase?
Except the suck.
Aha, there we go. We got it. Yeah, you call up your favorite print shop now. Hey, I'm going to need a bunch of T-shirts. All right. Skyler Bolks, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dave.
And we'll be back to wrap up the Dave Holly Hour in just a moment.
Ladies, when it's time to give your nails some love, get that extra special treatment from Quality Nails on South Minnesota Avenue in Sioux Falls. Manicures and pedicures that look great and make you feel fantastic. Zaya and Tony don't simply provide the service, they provide professional care for your hands and feet. Whether you just want the basics or you're looking for an extra special look with an added flair. Oh, and guys, it's okay to treat yourself too. Quality Nails on Minnesota. Call for an appointment, 605-334-1463.
Never met a meal you didn't like. Here he is, Dave Holly.
Thanks again to my great guests, Lary Etten and Skyler Bolks. Thank you for not only the listening, but for your support of local arts in the Sioux Empire. If you're a first-time listener, if you haven't already, please go to davehollyhour.com. Every one of these 276 episodes are available anytime. Look forward to hearing from you as well. I encourage you to find your art. Find the art you enjoy. Find the art you're interested in trying. We're taking in Improv Falls' last show of the season, Friday night at the Icon. Now, some other things you might want to take in this weekend. Sunday Night Blues at Club David starts at 6. Sunday evening at 8, comedian David Cross is live at the District. Doors open at 7, and the show starts at 8. We'll see you in the arts. As the Sioux Falls Arts Council says, together we art. As Arts South Dakota says, home is where the art is. As I say, put some art in your heart. Remember, my name is Dave Holly, and for me, every day is a holiday.
The Dave Holly Hour has been brought to you by Trio Jazz Club, Sioux Falls' premier jazz club, Serendipity Studio Gallery and Gifts, Chasers Food and Spirits, Excel Chiropractic, Quality Nails, and the Sioux Falls Arts Council. Stay up to date on the show by following on Instagram and Facebook. All episodes available anytime at davehollyhour.com. The Dave Holly Hour is produced in the Dipsy Doodle Studios by Big D Entertainment.
Thanks for listening